देखो दादी, ये बड़ा होकर ऑमलेट ही बनेगा।
अरे भाई साहब, आजकल सब अपने अंडे का आमलेट बनाते हैं, इसको बनाते हैं स्क्रम्बल्ड एग।
ऑमलेट स्क्रम्बल्ड एग, इसको ना हम कुछ ऑफबीट बनाते हैं, जैसे भुर्जी पाव हैं।
भुर्जी पाव हमारे जमाने में तो कोले अंडे को उबालना ही सही समझते थे।
MBA मस्त बॉयल अंडा।
अरे कॉन्टिनेंटल में बहुत स्कोप है, इसे एक बेनेडिक्ट भी बना सकते हैं, समझी?
अरे हमारा पहला अंडा है, इसके साथ कोई भी एक्सपेरिमेंट नहीं करेंगे, अगले के साथ ट्राई।
भुर्जी
With Bound, writers get to nourish and fuel their creative side. It is our aim to help everyone share their stories and make an impact. We offer writing retreats where our writers get to interact with a community of like-minded people and get mentored by India's best authors. Through our writing coaching program, we hone writers' skills and help them complete and pitch their manuscripts. It's not just about a single experience, workshop, or session. Bound is about finding your creative family. Join our community of over 6,000 writers and make your creative dreams a reality.
A very warm welcome back, guys. I think many of you, we've just read the comments and saw that because it's a Sunday, you are joining this in for the very first time. So those who are here for the very first time on this platform, go explore. I think there are a lot of things happening. There's this heist which you can be a part of. There are a lot of contests which are run by a lot of brands where you can win branded hampers. Use the Instagram filter that IFP has specially created for season 10. Also, do not forget to tag Instagram handle of IFP, and the hashtag IFPX is very important for us to actually get a knack of what you've been posting. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. India Film Project Season 10 is brought to you in association with OnePlus, binging partner Tata Sky Binge Plus, empowered by Bumble, sponsored by Acer Concept D Laptops, Sennheiser, Mubi, along with our ex-innovation sponsor Fujifilm. While we move ahead with this session, I'm sure you are aware, but still the title in itself is catchy for people who are into craft of filmmaking. It is titled as My Workflow as a Cinematographer, powered by Fujifilm. So we have this session which is on right now, but before that we would want to thank Fujifilm for powering this session. A brand that believes in value of innovation. Fujifilm, established back in 1934, is established in innovation and creation of new values through leading edge and proprietary technologies. Fujifilm India as a firm, believer in innovation, continues to work hard to provide the Indian consumer the best of products and services. For experiencing amazing product lineup for cinema and filmmaking, please visit the Fujifilm brand stall. Now you would wonder, how is that possible? IFP 9 में possible था क्योंकि वो on ground event था. So even on online, we've tried every bit to give you a experience which is like a live event happening on ground. So go and visit the virtual stall of Fujifilm, guys. Aditya Verma is the one who's going to lead this session. He is a filmmaker, director of photography. He's from Mumbai. He was born in Tirupati, and he shot feature films, music videos, advertisements, while simultaneously directing his own short films and fashion campaigns. He's also an editor and colorist. His filmography includes, as a cinematographer, a lot of interesting titles. Namdev Bhau is the one where he was involved, and Kia and Cosmos is one more. He's also shot music videos of Pratik Kuhad, Ritviz, Jasleen Royal, and Hanita Bambri. Fujifilm Vlog Challenge is on, guys. I'm sure you're aware of it because we've got almost 1,000 entries for the same. And the top 10 winners, I wanted to importantly let you know and convey this message. It will be announced on social media handles of IFP and Fujifilm both. So go check if you are amongst those top wow winners. The top 3 winners out of 10 will be winning XT200 and XA7, guys. So let's see who are those lucky people. And of course, next 7 winners also will be awarded with consolation prizes and certificates. As of now, before we hand over the session to Aditya, I would request my team to play a little trailer that we have, which is going to intrigue you for this session furthermore. Can we have the video, please?
अहो तुम्ही काय वेडेच आहात का? अहो जरा डोक्याचा वापर करा तुम्ही. कुठे तिकडे डोंगरावर जाणार? अगं तुझे वडील बघ संन्यास घेतात, शांततेच्या शोधात चालले. आणि काय हो, तुम्हाला काय मी जाडी वाटते का? दिसायला काय चांगली नाही का मी? का सटकलाय तुम्ही?
साइलेंट वैली जा रहे हो ना? आप भी मेरे गेम का हिस्सा हो ना? ये है रेड कैसल, जहाँ मुझे पहुँचना है। नाना मुझे लगता है हमें लौट जाना चाहिए। आप मेरे साथ गेम क्यों नहीं खेलते? मुझे भी शांति बहुत पसंद है। तुमको लगता है हम सही रास्ते पर हैं? हम सोएंगे किधर? तुम्हें और कितना टाइम लगेगा? कल शाम तक वैली पहुंच जाएंगे। अब की वैली आ गई और मेरा कैसल भी। मैं तो सिर्फ ये बताना चाहता था कि आपने मेरा टेस्ट पास कर लिया है। अब आप मेरे साथ चल सकते हो, बस। ये लो, आ गया आपका साइलेंट वाड़ी। मेरी मम्मी ने आपके बारे में भी कुछ लिखा है। Find the safer companion to travel, और वो आप हो।
Hello, 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 hello. Hope you guys can see me and hear me. Hello.
Yes,
team,
you're audible.
Can you actually give me a confirmation that, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I think we have the chat box
amazing.
buzzing as well. You are audible and you are visible all well. Thank you for being here, Aditya.
Thank you so much. That was quite an intro. I'm sorry, I'm going to remove my earphones, so I'm going to just talk to the camera. It's one of the most bizarre things for me, but I'm really, really thankful for IFP and Fujifilm for organizing this and doing this even at these times. And I'm really, really glad all of you are here. And today I'm going to share some of my experiences, how I did what I did. But before that, I'll give you a brief intro about myself. I'm a DP, photographer, cinematographer, colorist, like everything what she said. But I did not pursue, I did not study filmmaking. I did not go to film school and learn stuff. So whatever I'm going to tell you is everything that the workflow that I have created for myself. So this is going to be like people who have done, who have been to film schools and all, please don't judge me, or if you want to judge. But it's going to be fun if you actually take your notes and pen and like make some notes. I think this will be really useful. If not everything, at least there'll be few things that will be really useful for you. And I hope my audio is audible. I hope it is. Okay, so before anything, I'm going to start with the presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Just check this if it's here. I'm going to quickly get a confirmation on that. Can you guys see the screen? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, so
I think
1 second.
things are in place, sorted. We can see the screen. We can see the screen.
Yes, all right, okay, cool. So, I'm a cinematographer. 1 second. I'm a cinematographer based in Bombay, but right now I'm in Andhra Pradesh. I'm here with my parents because of the whole COVID situation. I actually started my journey as a photographer. I did a bit of fashion photography, and then I did a bit of portrait photography in Delhi. And then from there, I moved down to Bombay. In Bombay, I met like really nice people, cool people. I started with like doing behind the scenes of a film called Tino Radha, which was which was directed by Darya and Jugaad Motion Pictures. And in that, I was doing behind the scenes, and they shot their second feature film, which was Naam De Bhav, in which I was a cinematographer. If you want to know more about me, you can actually check my other workshops that's there in like Fuji YouTube channel and stuff. But today I'm going to briefly give you my workflow and how I've created my workflow because I did not pursue this as education, or I did not understand, or I did not learn from anywhere. I had to create my own workflow by being with like Darya and like learning from Dheer, who is my producer. So like I had to like create this workflow, and we follow this spiritually. And also it took a lot of time for us to build this, and then it took actually like at least 3-4 years to come here. And also I have shot a couple of feature films, but today I'm going to talk about short form of filmmaking. Like I'm going to talk about cinematography in short form, especially because I have only 1 hour. I thought of like just doing for short form because I won't be able to accommodate everything in this short span of time. So what I thought was I'll give you like, I shot like these music videos. I shot Cold Mess, I shot Nothing for Own, Sage, Liggy, Nit and all that as a cinematographer. And over a period of time, I understood how to create this workflow where it works for me. And I hope if you actually try and include some of these steps, it might also work for you. So I'm going to break it to 3 parts. One is also I wanted to tell you that short form, large format, any format, this workflow actually works for everyone. It is something that if you like apply it for any format, it might work, but this is mostly for short format. And you guys can like understand, and it is divided into three divisions. One is pre-production, one is on the day of the shoot, and one is post-production. And some people must be wondering what does cinematographer have to do on post-production and stuff. But I personally don't consider myself as just a cinematographer or just a cameraman. I consider myself as a DOP, the director of photography. So I always take part in everything. I take part in everything that is actually part of the filmmaking. And that's how I actually feel so close to the projects I've done. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, firstly. Secondly, there must be a little bit of echo. That's because of the situation, like I'm doing it from home. And 3, I think I'll get better over a period of time. I'm sorry if I'm acting nervous. Okay, that's there in every single shoot. No matter what size of the shoot, no matter what shoot I'm doing, the initial bit is always like that. And then the moment I start shooting, it just gets better, and then things flow, like you'll see. So the first step is like pre-production. So in pre-production, the first thing I always do, especially because it's a music video or it's kind of short format, there is always this track or the music that the musician sends in, for which we have to work on. So what I do is I always first, before even thinking about anything or like listening to the director, I always get the track and listen to it like at least 5 to 10 times, so that I understand what is the song about and what is the setup and everything. And like without manipulating or without actually adulterating any of the thoughts, I just listen to the song and I create my own world with it. But I am not, like, at this point, I'm not sharing any thoughts. I'm not talking about it. I'm just literally just listening to the song for like 5 to 10 times. That's the first thing. And second is throwing your ideas. Most of the times, the director and the producer or the creative director, they throw their own ideas. So when they are doing it, there is also this session called like ideas pitching session, which most of the times, luckily, because my team wants me also there, I always go there. And sometimes it's with the musician, sometimes it's only the agency, or sometimes it's only the director and the team. So most of the times I'm very happy to like pitch in whatever ideas I get, or whatever I'm reciprocating to what the director is saying or the creative director is saying about the ideas and stuff. And at the same time, sometimes you need to have this idea of, oh, visually will it work or not? And then you have to be as open as possible and tell your director, creative director, and everyone like as soon as possible. Because the session is too small, I'm actually trying to rush as much as possible so that I completely finish everything what I have. So next is script reading. This is something that I always want to do with the team, because it actually brings the entire team together, and then we all try and do the script reading together, and that actually helps us a lot. But before that, I asked Daria or the director who I'm working with, and asked them to narrate the story and narrate the entire thing once before I even read the script or like understanding the script, because that way I actually know, like I take everything what Daria has or like the director has, and then I pursue it, and then I think of, oh, okay, this could be working. And then once we go to the script reading, it will be much more clearer for us to understand what is happening. Short breakdown. And also, guys, again, people who have gone to film schools, don't judge me on this. I don't even know if short breakdown is done by the director, DOP or not. But I always try and sit with Dheer and Daria whenever I get a chance. There are like a couple of videos which I wasn't part of the short breakdown, because luckily we have someone like Dheer Momaya, who is our creative director and he's also our producer. He comes up with the short breakdown, and then I do a few changes, and then on the day of the shoot we kind of change a few shots and stuff. But at the same time, I'm always in sync with like my director, and sitting and writing the short breakdown, and then we talk about like what kind of shots we're going to do, and what time of the day the shots and all happening. And we make sure in the short breakdown we write down every single thing, even though we're not clear about it, because most of the times when you actually write down in the short breakdown, you kind of go to the recce, which is coming in the next part, where you know, oh, this might work or this won't work. And it also depends on the actors that we are casting and stuff. So I'm going to quickly run down what is the next thing. So next thing is I go back home after everything. I actually again listen to the song, ideally with the headphones, and then listen to it multiple times, not worry about anything, not worry about the video or anything. So I just literally go and just keep listening and like visualize the whole video, what it's going to be. Because now that you have the script, now that you have the short breakdown, you kind of can create this world inside your head. And then once you're creating that, like the world, you can actually visualize like what colors are coming, what kind of visuals are coming. And then while you're listening, or like after listening, or with the same kind of thought, you can actually go online and look for references, and then share it with like your director and the entire team. But that comes later. But at this point, you have to be a little clear about what you want in the location that you're looking for, and what kind of visuals you have in your head. And then you kind of create that world inside your head at least. And then collect the references, which like I mentioned, like you have to collect your references and then you have to keep them ready, because most of the time some people don't like doing referencing, and I personally never liked. While I was doing Namdeva and all, we never had any kind of references in mind. Only like director like Darya or like Dheer, they collected some references, but I never took part of any of this, because in my mind I was like, oh, I don't need any references. I'll go to the location, I'll find the shot, and then we'll do like the shot breakdown. But the problem with that is, when you have a larger team, when you have a big team who have to understand, who have to be in the same page, it's always good to have references, even though that's not going to be anywhere close to what your final image is going to be, but it'll help people to understand anything, like even like smallest information of like, oh, is it going to be a mid shot? Is it going to be like a tight shot? Is it going to be a wider shot? So a few references, or like what kind of an image it is, and especially to share with agencies or to work with the musicians and to tell them and explain them, it's much more easier to have references. And also the production house itself creates its own mood board, and they actually create their own stuff. But as a DOP, you also have to collect for your own thing. And this is one more thing. The one reason why I collect references before going to recce is also to share these to my AC or like my gaffer. And the next thing is the recce. Guys, everything depends on your recce. Recce is nothing but finding location for your video. So I'm actually standing and talking. This is the biggest jugaad I did. I had to manage. So I'm actually bending and talking, which is fine for me. So in the recce, what happens is, in the recce, you create the image, you create the world. And this is the most important step as of now. This is the most important step. And you need to be crystal clear about the location that you're saying, because one thing, once you lock the location, I can write it down. There is no going back. No matter how good cinematographer you are, no matter how great the film is, it all depends on like the location. Like 80% of the thing depends on location, because you're creating this world for the audience. For them to actually get into that world, the world should perfectly match to the script and to the thing that you're actually planning to shoot. So recce is one thing that's very important, and that's why I put like 3 stars. One thing I've seen like multiple times, that most of the times the DOPs, they don't go personally. They send their ACs and get the pictures and stuff. Man, that never works. And that is something that I would be completely against. Of course, you can ask your line producer or your ACs to send you pictures for the options that you are going to get, but you should never, ever not go to the location and not do the recce yourself. And especially it's when it's all about the location, you can't lock a location before even going there. And there are times when you're locked with a particular location and you don't have budget and you're supposed to shoot in one place. That's something completely understandable. But for everything else, you're supposed to be there, and you should definitely go and check the location and do it by yourself. I hope my audio is audible and I'm going on. So you go yourself, and that's very important, because no matter what pictures you're going to see, no matter what kind of pictures people are going to send, it's not you who is seeing, and you who is not understanding what is the image. Then I don't see a point of like not going there. And also this hundreds of things, man, don't lock the location until you actually go to the location. That's like, put it as many stars as possible there. Okay. Take pictures with 2 people, like 2 people in the sense that when you're actually doing, like in the shot breakdown, when you want to see the actors there, when you're doing the blocking and stuff, try always having 2 people like in actor's position, so that you can actually click pictures with these 2 actors and with 2 or 3, whatever the number of people. And then you get an idea, or like you can send this to the director for her to visualize, if the location is good or not. And this is very important, because sometimes what happens is you go there, you like one location, but you can't communicate the same thing to the entire producers. You can't explain to like everybody, like hundreds of people in the team. The best thing is you carry your camera, go shoot some pictures with the actors, and then you personally see the shot, like exactly like what is the shot breakdown, like click some pictures with the stand-in actors, and then send it to the production or send it to the director and stuff, so that we can actually lock the location or finalize the location. Again, like it's very given that you have to take your gaffer and AC for the location recce, because it's quite given that you have to take them, because one gaffer will understand where the light is coming from. You can explain what kind of light you're looking for, what time of the day you have to shoot. For me, like we have Sona, who's my gaffer, who actually explains entire like how the sun is coming and going, how we can shoot in which part of the place, which part of the house or the studio we can shoot. So it's always important to have a gaffer and AC who will actually take notes. Like having your AC is very important, because he'll take notes of what the gaffer is saying and like what kind of light requirement we have and everything. But definitely have one guy from director's team as well. He could be AD or DA, who is going to tell the director what is all needed in the location and how is the location and stuff. And also take one guy from the production team, because like a line producer or the guy who is with the production team, because that way he'll know the budgets of the location, he'll know what will be the number of days, he'll understand like what will be the location cost and everything. So you have like the camera team, the production team and the director's team going to the recce, where you have a clear understanding and everything will be in sync. And this is very important. I'm going to quickly, it's already 3:29. Wow, I can't believe. Confirm on location. So out of all the options, once you have all the pictures, you go home, you check and you say, oh, okay, this works for the mood of the film. You will at least have like 3-4 locations for the main location, whatever you're going to shoot. Once you have it, always remember, go home and try and like evaluate like what is working for you, and tell the director and try to convince as much as possible. And with whatever budgets you have to confirm on one location. And in the end, that's how you actually lock a location. Next step in the pre-production, which is very important, is making a color palette. I'm going to quickly share, 1 second, how I make a color palette. So this is one second. So this is, can you guys see the color palette? So sorry. So this is one color palette I created. So you can create your own way, but how I create is I'm just like showing few things. These are the colors that come to my mind after seeing the script, after doing the recce and everything. So I come up with these colors. These are some pictures that I have, or like I find on internet, or something that I have shot and stuff. 1 second. Guys, can you see the color palette thing? Please type. Yes, we can. So, okay, so I make my color palettes really quirky. This is for just my internal team, but this is to give an idea to the entire art directors, to the people in the team, to the director, and to explain them how you're seeing and what colors you're seeing in a particular scene or like in a particular shot. So this is something that completely internal, like it's an internal joke kind of a thing that we make. But this is something that I do. Okay, I think I need to close this. So these are something I do as a color palette, and it's very important for you to create like however you want, and you need to create your, 1 second. You need to create your own color palette, and in your own way, whatever works for your team. And I make sure like I send it to the art people, I send it to the stylists, I send it to people who are like in the entire team, the director's team and stuff, because that way what happens is everybody knows what kind of colors we're looking at the video. It's easy for everyone to get that kind of a costume, and it's easy for people to do painting and stuff like in the same way that you are looking at. So I think that makes it really easy. One more thing is a storyboard. Storyboard is something that mostly the director's team can get it done for you, or you can get it by yourself. That also helps you a lot. 1 second, let me actually quickly share. One second, guys. Yeah, I'm bad with this. Someone's judging already. So this is a storyboard that I've created for Nothing for Our Own. Like as you can see, like shot by shot, I'm actually getting it. See, honestly, I'm very bad with sketching. If I was good with sketching, I would have done it myself. But I get the sketching done with people, and I must be the only DOP who is bad with sketching probably, because I've seen hundreds of DOPs who are like sketching in such a great way, but I'm very bad with it. But I'm good with camera, so that actually makes sense. So I get these things made, and then if there is any changes, you can get it changed and stuff. So this is an example I'm quickly rolling over. So this is something that you do for the storyboard. Then this is something like when you're looking for actors, or like when you're doing the look test and everything, it's a process that would have been started the moment when you have logged the project. So it mostly comes down till the day, like at least 2 days before the shoot. So you log the actors, you do the look test. As a DOP, you need to go see the actors, get all the angles. Like I personally, what I do is I make them stand near the window and take pictures of all the profiles, and then I go home and then tell Dar or tell my director, oh, I like this person more for this. I see this person fitting better and stuff. But most of the times as a DOP, you need to because what else is in your control, man? Like your control is in like your, the kind of look of the film, how you want it, the colors that you have. Most of the times, these are something that cannot go wrong, because once you log these won't go wrong. No matter how bad the story is, no matter how bad the acting is, at least these things will be in control. That alone will create one story, and that's what I feel, because it's a visual medium. You're supposed to definitely take care of these things, and you can actually give good inputs, but also sometimes try not to be so like when people don't want you for these things and they say, oh, I have a casting director, I don't want you for this, then try and like be humble and just be like, oh, okay, thank you very much, I'm good. So yeah, that's very important to understand what to do and what not to do as a DP. Next is art director meeting, and this is something I personally do. I don't know if we have to do or not. Maybe the director only does it, but I do the meeting. I always am with the art director meeting, because like I control the geometry of the location, what kind of props which are coming in the location. I always want to have control over what image I am creating. So I think for me to have a sync with the art director is as important as anyone else in the thing. And yeah, man, I think it's very important to definitely do the meeting with the art director as a DOP, and it makes it much more easier for the art director to also create their own. See, art direction people, they always come up with their own presentation, they create their own stuff. But as a DOP, you need to tell them also what shapes you are looking for, and do you want to go with like a minimalist look, or do you want to go with like some messy look? So you always have to be in sync with an art director and tell them, oh, this works or this doesn't work in their presentation and stuff. Next is costumes meeting. I always take care of always be part of costumes, because something I have control over is colors, and then the colors I can't give it to someone else. But luckily we have been working with like really good costume directors, like costume makers or stylists. So what I always do is like I make them understand what colors I'm looking for, what kind of fitting which will work and stuff. I always be in touch with the like current fashion or like street fashion, what's happening. So be always relevant to the time and stuff, and time of the script, or like what time are we playing that. I am so nosy on these things. Like I remember doing costumes for Cold Mess all by myself. I went to Jim's place and I chose stuff from his wardrobe. I bought some stuff for Hold Tight completely. I did costumes. I went and bought in the mall. I myself going and getting the shirt and pants and stuff to create that kind of a look, because I had a particular thing in my mind, so we had to recreate that. Yeah, man, most of the times I'm always like giving inputs. It doesn't mean like you go and put your nose in everything, but it just means that you can humbly give your own opinion to everything that you're creating, because in the end, they'll only say, oh, that's such a bad video, that's such a bad visual. So it all comes down to your credit. So yeah, always go to the costumes meeting. Don't be lazy, man. This is all, I'm telling you all these because I'm also telling myself, because sometimes, because I know there is Dhiran, Darya who can take care of things, I kind of like be complacent and say, oh, you know what, I don't want to go today. But then in the end, I always like pull my ass up and then go to these meetings, and which is very important. And always being part of the whole thing, that's how you create this whole image. Sorry for the sounds. And yeah, the next is props. I'm always in the WhatsApp groups. I'm in like 4 or 5 WhatsApp groups for the props. I'm always, because they send me and give me a list of things that I'm looking at that is going in the set, and then I'm not actually going through each one of them. There are times like I tell people to like get extra props and stuff to the art directors, so that in the morning when we go to the set and we don't want to use something, then I make them change few things and stuff. So I think that way we actually do that, so that I get an update about everything, because again, it comes down to your geometry, your background, small things that actually matters in the image. So yeah, always try and be like a little aware of everything what's happening. And one most important thing after that is like doing a tech recce with your AC. It's not the main recce. You go for the tech recce. You decide what time of the day you're shooting what. You decide what kind of lighting you want. You decide each and every single thing how you want for your image. So this actually is so important. Sometimes I am so irritating. I take the whole day for tech recce. I make sure I repeat to my gaffer like 10 times the same thing, so that no matter what I say, you have to make people register in their minds as well. So that way I actually make sure like I repeat things, so that it like things don't go wrong on the day of the shoot. And tech recce is the most like is really important after the recce. Okay, so, and one day before the shoot, what all you should do, I'm going to quickly run through this, because this is nothing but like choosing your equipment. Sometimes you take your own equipment. I personally choose my own equipments because Fuji is sponsoring, I'm actually doing a little bit of, so I choose the camera that is good for the shot, for the shoot. And then I make sure I choose the camera which is right for the image that day. And sometimes the production house tells you what kind of a end file system they want. Like some people want RAW for their workflow. Sometimes they are fine with like 10-bit footage. Then I'm okay with shooting something like a Fujifilm. And it all depends on like, again, what your director wants. Like sometimes, especially in India, like everybody takes call about your camera, what camera you're shooting. But luckily I have a really good team where they let me choose my weapons, what I want for the shooting. So next is lens and focal length. Again, it's something that I'm not covering here much. Lens and focal length is again comes down to personal preference, and also comes down to what kind of an image you're creating. And for the image, like I'm not going thorough on this topic, because I want to tell you the workflow. Maybe like I've done one or two other workshops on these on Fujifilm India YouTube. There must be 1 or 2 videos on this, or if not, there is a YouTube channel where I create all these things. You can also check that out. But I'll try and wrap everything faster. So you need to choose whatever focal length you want. You can tell the rental houses, oh, these lenses you want, this particular mount I want, and you can lock all those on that day. This is to make yourself a checklist, so it's easy for you. So then again, you go like you think of like what kind of rigs you want. So you need to call your rental house and say, oh, I want a shoulder rig like this, or like I want a what do you call it? I want an easy rig for my camera, or like whatever you want for the rigs, or like you can build your own. Like if you are as mad as I am, I have my own cinema camera, so I created my own rig where I have like a proper shoulder rig that I created for myself. Or you can create for your own, or you can actually try one day before going to the rental house and like see what works best for you. Yeah. Again, like I said, I'm not from a film background, so I don't know if this workflow is correct or not, but I'm omnipresent everywhere. Tripod and monopod depends on like what kind of a flow you have and what kind of stuff you want. And again, it's quite basic things. Gimbal, again, like you want to have someone operating the gimbal for you, like a, what do you call it? Like the guy who comes with, okay, so you get a guy with the gimbal and do it for you, or you want to operate yourself. Most of the time I want to control my image, so I kind of take my own stuff and like do the stuff. And then one day before, I'm actually balancing and stuff, and I'm practicing everything and I'm doing it. 1 second, guys. if I'm rushing, I'm really, really sorry. That's because of lack of time. But I hope you're getting something out of it. Try and understand the gist of it. It'll be easier to understand me than like just like the stuff. Filters. Again, filters is one of the most important thing. You have to decide beforehand on the day of the shoot. You can't be like, oh, I wish I had a black promise filter, or I wish like an ND filter or something. You always take calls beforehand, make a checklist, call these people and tell them what you want and stuff. And few lights that I carry always. See, again, most of the times in these big productions, you kind of get the lights from the rental house, but always, no matter what rental house comes, I always carry like 2-3 lights that I have. Comes to Aperture, where like I want to give a big shout out to Aperture, who actually have sorted my light scenes out for me, because most of the times even though no matter how many lights come and whatever come, there are few things I always carry when I'm going. Some of these small lights, I don't know if you can see. So I carry these, and also apart from this, I have a 300D Mark II and 300D Mark X, which I always carry with me, so that whenever I want to do like a small shot, like portrait shot, and just like add a little bit of window, like enhance the window light, I kind of use just one light and get the job done. And in shoots, when you don't want to spend the whole day of shoot with like lighting equipment, and then you don't want to call the rental houses, I literally shoot with like 1 or 2 lights, what I have with me. So that way, I always carry some of the handy stuff that you want. And also, I think I did one video with Fuji where I mentioned what I have in my camera bag. I think that is actually very useful. You can go check that out in Fujifilm India YouTube channel. Okay, so then goes with the pre-lighting. So for pre-lighting, you have to do it like one day before, while the art is happening. Sometimes pre-lighting is happening. You go with your gaffer and AC and get the pre-lighting started, because you always get the pre-lighting done. At least I always believe in it, because you don't want to spend the next day and waste the time for shooting, like waste the time of the shoot instead of like doing it beforehand. And I think this is the workflow that I've picked up like in last 2-3 years, which worked really well for me, where I don't need to waste like the first initial 2-3 hours of like shoot, which is the most energetic and most powerful part of the time to shoot. So I don't want to like lose that. So I make sure like we have the pre-lighting sort out, and which doesn't have to be like complete light setup. It could be something like once the art is set in the night, or like once one part of the location is set with the art, you can actually put some pre-lighting done, so that you get an idea about what is happening. You can at least put like space lights and all that, where most of the hard work would be done. So the next day would be literally like putting like sky panels and stuff to like just light up or like bring in lights and stuff. So that saves a lot of time. Moving down to shoot day tips. So these are something that you need to understand. This is something that I've written for myself, and this is not the notes that I've picked up somewhere. It's something that I have created, and I know which works perfectly for me. So I'm going to give very few tips. There were more stuff that I created, but because it was 1 hour, I had to like cut down a lot of it. Let me like give a little bit of it. I've written physical exercise. As you can see, physical exercise is something each one of us like actually like give least importance to. But I promise you, like, to do the whole day shoot without complaining or without getting tired, you need to actually do some kind of cardio or some kind of physical exercises before the shoot happens. Like, I actually start at least 1 week before, getting all my muscles pumped, or like I'm actually doing some kind of cardio exercise. I'm keeping myself as fit as possible, because on the day of the shoot, it's literally fight. And especially for DOPs, your backs are going to break. You are going to literally be like drenched with sweat and mud and whatnot, and you will be so tired. So you need to be as strong as possible on the day of the shoot. So I'm telling you, physical exercise is something that you need to, like, you don't have to do completely like start with like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and pump everything up. You don't need to do all that. There are I saw in one of the YouTube channels, like, you can just go search on YouTube asking for physical exercises for DOPs or for cinematographers, there are a few videos which are like really helpful. So what I would recommend is before the shoot starts, like at least do good stretching, and then do some kind of a weight training or some kind of like push-ups, dips and all that. I'm sure you know all this. So you just try and do some kind of a physical exercise to last the entire day, because no matter what they say, it is never going to be an 8-hour shift. It's going to be either 12, 13, 14. And for you especially, it would never be a 12-hour shift, because if it's a 12-hour shift, you have to go 2 hours before the shoot, and then you have to stay there for another 2 hours with the whole team and stuff. So you need to be physically ready for it. And yeah, I think I mentioned it more than once in this, so I'll also cover that again more. Listening to the song. So actually what we do is we always go together to the location. So when we're going in the car, we make sure we're listening to the song at least 5 to 10 times. What happens is I am in that tempo, my movement, everything is based on that song. Like I make sure like I listen to the song during the shoot as well, but before the song also, like before the shoot even happens, you make sure you listen to the song, because you will have the tempo, you'll understand what kind of motions you need to do, what kind of pans and tilts you need to do, what kind of movement you need to do. So that helps a lot. And always reach location before time. Like I need to admit, I have messed up like a couple of times with this, but I always try and be before time, because if you are there, you can get all the lighting set up, all the changes that you want on that day. You can get all that done, and it will help immensely. I can promise you that. Hello? Can I have the team for a bit? I'm going to take a small break because I'm actually Benny. Hello? 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 Can I have the team on? Can you play the next visual? I'm going to play one video right now, and after that, I'll come back. Can you confirm on that? Yes, great. Okay, guys, I'll see you in a bit.
Which video would you like us to play, Aditya? Hello. Hello, Aditya.
There's a particular shade of blue that's quite bluish, but not too blue. There's a yellow mixed with a pinch of red that sounds like my mother in the kitchen and the crackle of spices. There is an angry purple of sudden argument and 2 days of no messages and no calls. There is one green splattered on a fistful of brown. It's the smell of my village after the first rain of summer. It's a bit damp, a little warm, a bit cold. It's an open window that left my maths holiday homework with. There are blacks and whites of decisions made, with no space for grey. There is a red from 1995 of a wounded knee after a fight with my brother. A red of lipstick on my auntie's teeth. There is an orange for orange juice and another for news channels. There are ochres, violets, navies, blues, blacks, browns, greens, reds, and colors without names hidden in color wheels, histograms, lumetri scopes, escaping RGB, CMYK, and Pantone. We have to hunt them, trap them, tease them, and please them. We filmmakers, cinematographers, photographers are in this business of feelings, thoughts, and memories. Beyond the resolution, pixel count, angles, shots, POVs, and all this, we're always pulling, pushing, and stretching to make the story last a bit longer. Color can evoke 100 feelings and 1,000 thoughts. I feel like I've been recording colors in my mind since even before I held a camera for the first time. These are my colors.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. So yeah, I think that's my LUTs and presets I've made. Thanks to the lockdown, I was meaning to make these LUTs and presets from ages. Now I got some time and I made them. You should definitely check them out. But yeah, so yeah, coming back to the shoot day tips. Till then, what was I saying? Reach before time and then fix lighting and do some test shots. So always definitely do some test shots. Try and get your, like, when you're actually setting up the light and everything and the art is ready, when everything is ready, try and understand, like, you fix everything, you ask your gaffer to stand in, or like ask one of your actors to stand in and take a test shot before the director even comes, or like director is doing her own stuff, his own stuff. So you actually show the shot, and most of the times you can actually most of the times you can actually start with the, like, do a test shot and then go on from there. And again, like, before like, while everyone is having breakfast and doing all those stuff, what you can do is you can sit with the director and the ADs and try and plan the order. And that's very important for the day, because when you have a storyboard that we have printed in our hands, you can actually mark for, like, first scene, second scene, third scene, or like first thing to shoot or second thing to shoot. So that way you have a proper order of, like, keeping things, and like doing with the AD and like doing with the director and AD and the producer sometimes with us. For us, Dheer is like a blessing, because he has a lot of cinema knowledge. He has a lot of knowledge. So he actually, whatever problems I have, he actually becomes the gap filler, and he actually helps in hundreds and millions of things. So what we do is, like, we come up with this workflow, and then we start with the day and like what shot we are taking and stuff. And one thing, on the day of the shoot, everything will mess up, and it is supposed to be. Whatever color palettes you've made, whatever art you've discussed, whatever costumes you're going to say, everything is there should be at least 10 to 15 problems you'll face on the day of the shoot. Otherwise it's not a shoot. And try and understand at that moment, try not to like react, try not to shout at people. And one thing I keep telling people, like, we are not in like the conventional filmmaking anymore. We need to understand it's a collaboration that we're doing with like each and every artist. You can't be rude as a DP, you can't be rude. And that's the first and foremost important thing. Like, you can't be rude to anyone. This is not just your film, it's everybody's film. So you need to be as humble as possible to people and get your work done. So because the artist like could not understand what you communicated, so it's also your problem. Try and understand. So stop shouting at your ACs, or stop shouting at ADs, because that will create the same workflow for them when they grow up. So that is something that you should never ever do as a DP. So always understand. When it goes down, try and understand, relax, and sometimes you will know like it's gone messed up. So at least in your face, don't show it, because nobody sees the director, because director is always emoting 100 things. She'll be telling 100 different things. She could be emotional, but if DOP says, oh my God, we are messed, that's it. The entire team goes like really tense. So when you are there, try and understand. You need to be relaxed. You take step by step, and understand you can fix each and everything. And when things go really wrong, try and understand if the actor is there, if the director is there, and if the camera is there, you can still do the shoot. You can still manage and do, because that's what I always tell myself. Oh, so what? Something like the lighting has gone wrong, or like art has gone wrong. I'll figure out a way to get my shot in a way that I can. I just take the actor to the window, get the shot done, and like I figure out what to do next. So you should always be like with presence of mind, and like try and be Zen mode all the time. Or, of course, you will be tensed as well, as much as everyone else in the set. I am the most tensed guy. That's always there with like any kind of art. But try and understand. It's a collaboration, and then you have to like Zen through it. Okay. Next, be a superhuman. This means that like it comes from the previous step, where this means you need to be physically, mentally, in every which way you are the superhuman, because Like everyone can take rest, everyone can spend their own time. But for you, when you're going for lunch, you need to set your next shot. You need to get your gaffer ready. You need to get your team ready. You are the one who can't have all these luxuries. I personally feel on a shoot day, like people who have worked with me, they would know my energy is on the top. I make sure it's not about me, or it's not about anything about me or my personal pain or nothing, none of my emotion. It becomes a shoot emotion. For this, Daria has created this beautiful ritual. What she does is like we do a gathering where we kind of do a ritual and we all become one, and we forget that we are ourselves, but we become the shoot, like shoot itself, or like the character itself, what is going on. So yeah, always try and be superhuman. And as DOPs, this is like mandatory with the kind of demand we have, with the kind of competition we have. Man, you need to be a superhuman. There's no two goes with this. This is something that I follow. Like I said in the beginning, like no matter what goes down, what happens, whatever has happened is happened. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But this shot is everything that I can give myself. Like this is what I do even when I'm clicking pictures. I always tell myself, like when I'm like in like a hazy mood, or like something like that I'm not giving full focus on, or like when I'm not in the mood, or like something is happening around, I always tell myself, okay, we'll stop everything, we'll not shoot, we'll not do anything, but let's just take this shot as our last shot of our lives. Like this something, when I keep telling myself and when I do this, it actually helps me, and it will help everyone out there. And I'm telling you, this is something, it will always work. Try and understand, just give everything to the shot that you're doing. Don't worry about the next shot. Don't worry about what's going to happen to the shoot. If you give that particular shot the utmost importance, everything works out fine. Yeah, and one more thing is like shoot story over style, which I have been like on a serious note. Every single day I get like at least 30 to 40 DMs asking me to watch their videos, watch their photos, and watch everything. One thing I have been seeing, this has been a thing with the latest, like at least with the people right now, is like there's always so much style. They do some kind of a time lapse, they do some kind of like off framing and all that. Like it comes from like they think about, oh, I am going to do something like a Wes Anderson kind of a shoot, I'm going to do this. And man, honestly, if you can focus on story and then just story, what the story is in hands, and if you can style everything around it, man, it works perfectly. Like for example, in Cold Mess, we did not, oh, okay, so 16mm will actually create this image. No, it's actually because we wanted to create a nostalgic image, and we wanted to show Bombay in a image that we have in our heads. Then we chose the 16mm, and we chose that kind of a style. It has nothing to do with like, oh, let's choose this style over for the thing. And this is something that I picked up a lot from Daria, because Daria always tells me, no matter what you're doing right now, like if you're shooting like 17th page, third line or whatever, that particular emotion, what you're going through, that should come out of your camera. That is what you need to move like. That is what you need to be. And that's something, man, honestly, all these things will come over a period of time. Also, I'm getting a message from someone saying, can we start with Q&A? Okay, guys, like that's the shoot day tips. I have one more slide. Can I actually do that slide, or should I actually continue with Q&A? Because I asked for 30 minutes extra because I knew this is going to take time.
Yes, I think
Can you please
we have
confirm on the
some
chat?
fun questions for you, Aditya.
Sorry.
Yes, there he has the headphone on. Okay, Aditya, hi, thank you so much. I think it was amazing, very insightful. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Aditya. I believe the comments are evidently saying that the session was very insightful. Thank you so much. And I'll quickly take two questions, Aditya. One question happens to be from Ashish Saryam, and he's about what is the process of color grading for pre and post production.
Okay, so
I hope I'm audible.
Color grading, yeah, you're audible. You're audible. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Sorry, guys, this is it. We're going to end here. So I'm going to answer these questions and do it. See, color grading is something, like I said, I think if you have gone through what I have mentioned, colors started from the process when I started making the color palette, when I started doing like with the costumes, with the art and everything. Everywhere I'm actually including whatever I'm doing with the color grading. It's not just about going into your post production and putting LUTs and doing it. It's more like you need to think of all this before shooting and on the day of shooting, and then in the post you do the grade the way you want. And I personally do all my color grading myself, so that's how I actually do it. Yeah. So color grading is something that starts before you even shoot. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much from Ashish, who asked the question. There's one more question, Aditya. We have a lot of aspiring content creators on the chat, and they're like, no, we want that slide back, because you said there's one last slide left, right? So
yeah, there's one more slide. There's like literally 4 points.
Oh, is it? Okay. So we get that slide back, because I think they've started spamming the chat box, which is evident that, you know, they're enjoying the session thoroughly. Of course, we are out of time, but we can't miss out on this one. So before we get on to the last slide that you have, I have one more question. What camera gears do you use? That's the question somebody has asked in the chat.
Guys, I wanted to actually thank Fujifilm for actually making me part of this amazing journey that I'm going through right now. Because one, this is my daily driver for especially something that I shoot like travel, or like when I want to put a camera on gimbal, or when I'm like most of the shoots I've shot, like my music videos also I shot with this, because this produces 10-bit and stuff. It's not because Fujifilm is producing doing this, I'm sponsoring this, I'm telling you like this. And also, it's because of the image that comes out of the camera and the love that I have for the whole system. And like, it's such a small camera and the kind of image that it can produce, and millions of things, man. I can tell you a million reasons why I choose the camera. But people ask me, oh, in the era of full frame cameras, everybody's shifting to large format and all. Please, guys, please try and understand. Super 35mm film has been like a norm for filmmaking from ages, and it will remain, if I'm not wrong, because like there are a million things. There are million things why people still choose reasons why people still choose RE over RED, even though it has only 2.8K RAW. It is never about just the sensor size. Of course, it has its own technical advantages, but a camera is never just about the sensor size, guys. And please don't fall into these mythical things where people push you into their promotion. Like, for example, I just saw iPhone 12 launch. They made everything seem so big, and man, I personally got tempted to like buy the camera and start shooting when I have like 5 more cameras which have like better sensors, better everything, but I'm still like, so it's just something that people are pushing their marketing so hard. Don't get into these things. Focus and try and understand, as a community, we have to be together and save these cameras, guys, because everybody's nowadays shifting to phones and all that. It's not a bad thing. It is definitely not a bad thing. But if you compare the prices now, the cameras have become much more cheaper than the phones, and you can never match even like a cheapest Fujifilm camera's image to iPhone or phone. And we have to together save these companies, because if you can see, like there are few companies which went out of business, and it's something that we need to do like collectively and try and save the whole cameras, man. Like, I think this is something that we need to be together with. And of course, as time goes on, people are going to like adapt, change, and people are going to go smaller bodies. But there are a few things that we need to collectively spend some time. I'm sorry I took too much time to answer that question. Yeah. Did I answer? Fujifilm X-T4, by the way. Answer.
Thank you so much, Aditya. I think the entire session was very insightful, considering not just the comments and the way they spammed the entire, they want that last slide right away. So
I'm doing the slide. Can I actually explain the slide in, I'll take 5 more minutes.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, guys. Oh, so one last thing is the post-production. Which is something I'm always part of. Like, this is something not many DPs are like really, because see, one thing is I understand DPs are always busy. They get like a lot of work once you have name, or like once people notice your work and they want to work with you. but this is something that I always allot for my workflow, because no matter what happens, I need to spend like those 2 days of color grading, because I do my color grading and color correction myself. But at the same time, for a particular project, your job is not done as soon as you're done with the shoot. This is something that you need to definitely follow. One is watch every bit of footage. You need, like, this is my favorite time when I'm shooting with Dar and Dheer. What happens is, we actually, right after the day of the shoot, we go back to the hotel or we go back to homes. We go back to Daria's place, and then we just watch every single second of her footage, and that gives me immense pleasure of the end. Like, that just sums up my whole day and gives me so much happiness just to see Dheer shouting, saying, whoa, 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 and Daria just like shouting and jumping and looking at the footage. One thing you need to understand, when you do this step, you are going to you're going to by default be sad about the cut, whatever cut you're going to get, because no matter what cut you're going to get, you're going to be at least like 10 to 15% sad about it until it actually releases and goes on this. Because what happens is, when you see so much footage and everything is so good, it is you're ought to lose like some of the footage that you like, and you need to be okay with it, and you need to know when to leave, like when to be separated with the whole thing, and you need to always balance these two things perfectly. Second is, I never go on the first, obviously Daria always sends me the first cut, or like the director send me the first cut. Even though if I have notes, I just make them, but I always wait for the second cut, because that's when Daria's notes are already done, or like the producer's notes, or like everybody else's notes are done. And then the second notes is where you have to put your foot down and say, you know what, I've seen this shot there. Can you please try that, even if it doesn't work? So you need to like put your foot down, and as much as you can fight for your own footage, or like you can fight for what is good for the project. Again, comes down to this, like you need to understand, you need to be as logical as possible. You need to be as balanced as possible, where you need to know, okay, these are the times I need to like just shut up because nothing is going to make it better. Or these are the times when you say, you know what, these at least 1-2 things can be changed, and it makes the cut better. So that's where I think second edit notes is the most important part, because after this point you can like give your own notes for the final cut and everything. So write down, and because when you have when someone asks you for the second edit notes, spend some time, watch it 2, 3, 4 times, and see if it matches your vision, how you were shooting. Does it go exactly like how you want? Then all the things, all the footage you watched on the day of the shoot, you can actually tell them, oh, you remember that shot we saw, so that might work and stuff. Yeah, that can help a lot. Color correction and color grade. No matter what camera you're shooting, no matter which system you're on, no matter Alexa, anything, your colors will never be exactly same as the color palette that's written down. So this is where you do a little bit of color grading and do color correction in such a way where everything balances and everything goes in a flow. And that's what I always think about. And most of the time, sometimes, it's like most important thing is to have the flow properly. And to have that flow, you need to spend some time to just like color correct and color grade. This process, some people, they do it on their own. Some people, they make others do. If you have a colorist, you need to sit next to them and tell them, oh, I like this and I don't like this. And man, this is the most important thing. After the film is released, after your after parties, after millions and thousands of views, man, the most important thing is you sit down and you watch your own work. I know a lot of DPs who don't watch their films. I am a self-obsessed, narcissistic guy. I watch like most of my videos, and I watch it because I genuinely enjoy watching my own videos. And you can judge me all you want, but it actually helps me. It gives me exact idea about like where I went wrong, and especially after watching it, after 1-2 months of the video release, it actually gives me a complete understanding of thing. So I think that's about it. I would like to thank IFP, man. IFP, you guys are doing great job. Thank you for this opportunity. I would like to really, thank you, man, from bottom of my heart, because I wanted to do something like this from a while, and what other better platform than IFP, and this is a great platform for you guys also. And stop spamming. You don't understand the platform that you've got. at like 7-8 years back, I didn't know anything about all this. If something like this would have happened, I would have been so happy and stuff. To Fujifilm, man, amazing system. Thank you so much for bearing me all these years, and I hope our journey continues. And thank you so much, Fujifilm, especially for doing free workshops, free videos online and stuff. And it's a great system, man. You can like completely rely on it. Aperture, again, being there for me. That's it. That's it.
Aditya, before you leave, I guess considering we have a lot of people who really enjoyed the session, so let's have a nice Fuji moment with you while they take a selfie along with their systems where you go click click maybe, because you and going click click goes hand in hand. So we click a lovely memory, all of us together. All the attendees, put your cameras on. I count 3. We already have lights, and in a while my team is gearing up, because I think this was my very spawned suggestion. Looking at the love that you've showered in the chat box, I thought Aditya can always go click click and we can click a picture with him. But before we have him and my system ready for the click, Aditya, my take back is not just that, you know, cinematography tricks and tips were obviously part of it and very important aspect, but I think the wholesome aspect that you covered about how important it is to be involved in the costumes and logistics and fitness and contingency plans and reaching out the locations before time and listening to that enhancing kick music and all of that. I think that's how we, you know, we'll get a well-rounded gig. Thank you so much, Aditya.
Thank you so
I think
much.
people might have already clicked the pictures while the session was on. Thank you so much. We would love to have you again and again at IFP. Thank you.
Thank you, IFP.
And thank you, Fujifilm, for powering this session. Yay, there you go. I'm sure they might have clicked. Thank you. Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you so much. See you. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.